it's really frustrating to find a warm place to lay your head. And there's not a lot of warm-up locations.
Tonight, an emergency shelter for Saskatoon's most vulnerable.
It's frightening, but it also makes you realize how old you are. But the most surprising thing about it is how many there are.
Plus, Red is Beautiful, the legacy of artist Robert Houle, on display in Toronto. And high-speed chess with weapons. Our reporter Lindsay Richardson tries out Mohawk fencing. Good evening and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Daryl Stranger. The parade of storms has stopped for now in BC, but as APTN's Tina House reports, officials are finally getting a closer look at the destruction left in the wake of the storms.
This is normally a baseball diamond, but it's now a lake with water nearly reaching the scoreboard. And this soccer field is the same. 5 feet of water has now engulfed the entire field. There is no doubt that the last few weeks has been a struggle for residents in BC. In fact, with entire highways washed away and so many homes underwater, government officials have said that this will be the costliest disaster in Canadian history. As you can see behind me, many of the farmers' fields are still drenched with water, mostly due to the last week where we've experienced 3 atmospheric rivers. In fact, in the Abbotsford area, they received over 540 millimeters of water just in the month of November, shattering all records. Just to the right of me here, you can see this blueberry field is completely underwater. We've been told by farmers in the local area that it's going to be quite impossible to harvest any type of a crop next year due to the flooding damage. The heavy rain has stopped for now, and government officials are hopeful that they can begin the rebuild and to restore supply chains.
From repairing roadways to finding creative ways to move products, this has truly been a remarkable effort by thousands and thousands of people. It has involved the unprecedented coordination between Indigenous First Nations governments, the federal and provincial governments, and local governments. Hundreds of companies have been involved, as well as labor groups. Everyone has pulled together for the common good, and it's been very, very special to witness this happen.
Over at the Matsqui First Nation, 5 of the homes on the reserve got some water damage, and some had flooding in their basements. But with the supply chain compromised, there have been so many empty shelves in the surrounding stores. Chief Alice McKay says she is grateful for the community support and donations.
They have sent us, I guess over the weekend, they had vans coming in here with just loaded down with things, food, all kinds of necessities. You know, it was so amazing, you know, to see that in this world today that people can still be so helpful and so kind, because a lot of this came from the Sikh temple and then the Surrey Food Bank.
But flooding and chances of mudslides have closed many of the major highways around the Fraser Valley. And because of those highway closures, the side roads are now the only way to travel. And on our way to the Matsqui First Nation, we encountered this semi-truck flipped over on its side. It was leaking liquid tar all over the road and down this embankment, spilling into the creek that runs into the Fraser River. That's the largest salmon-bearing river in the world. Officials were on scene trying to contain the spill and had closed off traffic, forcing motorists on more detours. And Chief McKay says it just shows how dangerous it is right now to travel.
I would say slow down and just drive defensively and be aware of what's going on around in your surroundings.
Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
And as BC continues to deal with the severe flooding, a group of Yukon firefighters are going there today to lend a helping hand. Here's Sarah Connors with that story.
The gear is packed, and in just a few hours, this group of First Nations firefighters will be heading to BC.
There are some places that we're going to be going to have seen 150 milliliters in 24 hours, okay?
They're members of Yukon First Nations Wildfire, a contract service based in the territory. A 16-person flood response crew will be helping with the historic flooding in BC.
it really excites me to go down with such a positive group.
Tanner Borsa is from the Little Salmon Carmacks First Nation. He will be deployed in Kamloops. He says he's looking forward to helping Yukon's southern neighbor.
It's really a chance for everyone to get that experience and show what our company is capable of doing.
Okay, so no looking at the camera.
Yukon First Nations wildfire are being sent into areas like Nanaimo, Kamloops, and Vancouver for 2 weeks. They'll be working with BC First Nations fire services on the ground, providing help with recovery and restoration. Borsa says he'll be primarily doing jobs like sandbagging and protecting structures, but he's up for anything.
It could be also moving livestock to a safer environment, pretty much anything that the communities need.
This summer, the organization helped with major flooding in Yukon's Southern Lakes region.
Everyone's eager to help, I think, and they're looking forward to the opportunity.
Jesse Latosky is a manager with the organization. He says the experience this summer will help them while they're in BC.
There are a lot of transferable skills as it is. It falls under the banner of emergency management. So the command structures will be similar to a fire.
The deployment will head to BC Friday morning.
Everyone knows how to hold themselves, and I feel real confident with the group we have down there.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
The Saskatoon Tribal Council announced a proposed location for a temporary emergency wellness center. It will serve the city's homeless during the cold winter months. APTN's Leanne Sanders reports.
The downtown Saskatoon space still needs city approval, but the Tribal Council hopes doors will be open in the next 2 weeks. Because of the cold, they want the city to speed up the approval process. The 9,200 square foot facility will host up to 50 people at first and features single occupancy rooms. That's welcome news to Alyssa, who has stayed at shelters like the Lighthouse and the Salvation Army.
I have stayed in the dorms, and there's just a big room with other people. And it can be hard to sleep and because of all the commotion going around.
Meanwhile, Tribal Council Chief Mark Arcand says it will be more than just a shelter. They will offer everything from help with social assistance to advice on banking and rent. And most importantly, health supports, all aimed at getting people off the street.
We really want to stress the mental health and addictions piece, right? So how do we work together and support them? And this is why Possibility Recoveries here is to have those one-on-one sessions. There's a little room inside where they can have private discussions, do that kind of stuff. So it's very important.
Melissa Smith with the Lighthouse says this shelter is welcome news.
I would hope that while we're, working on this short-term solution and life-saving over the winter months, that we're also at the same time looking at those long-term solutions for more affordable housing, revising our SIS model and that social assistance, and investing in the supports that people need in order to stay housed.
With recent heavy snowfall and temperatures dropping, Alyssa is looking forward to having another place to go.
It's really frustrating to find a warm place to lay your head. And there's not a lot of warm-up locations.
Leanne Sanders, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
We want to hear what you think about the proposed location for the temporary emergency wellness center. Here's how to continue the conversation. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca or leave a comment on aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. The Manitoba Kiiwetanawi Ogamaganak says more Indigenous representation is needed within Manitoba's police watchdog organization. The move comes as the Independent Investigation Unit of Manitoba released a report yesterday into the case of a Winnipeg police officer who shot and killed Stuart Andrews last spring. Andrews, a God's Lake First Nation man, was shot in northwestern Winnipeg. The report says there are no grounds to justify any charges against S.O. for his use of lethal force. Now, S.O. in the report is the officer who was not named. MKO Grand Chief Garrison Settee says the IIU needs more Indigenous involvement and oversight.
We have many questions as to why the police dog was not deployed at the site. I firmly believe that if the police dog was deployed, Stuart Andrews would be alive today had there been the use of non-lethal tactics. It is very disheartening and devastating to think that a police dog is more valuable than an Indigenous man.
Canada's expert panel on immunization is updating their guidance on booster shots. NACY's recommendations are broken down into two categories: strong and discretionary. Under strong, the group recommends boosters for Canadians who are 50 and older, long-term care residents, or people living in congregate living, those vaccinated with 2 AstraZeneca doses or 1 dose of Johnson & Johnson, First Nations, Inuit or Métis, and frontline healthcare workers. Now, under discretionary recommendations, NACY says people who are 18 to 49 could be considered eligible for the booster if they meet certain criteria. That includes people who are immunocompromised or have underlying medical conditions, racialized and marginalized populations, people living in neighborhoods with high concentrations of COVID-19, or areas with lower vaccine coverage. All right, we need to take a short break, but still to come. They say the pen is mightier than the sword, but is it really? Our intrepid Lindsay Richardson throws down the gauntlet with some Mohawk warriors to find out.
There's no risk of serious injury. Well, there's always a risk of serious injury.
Welcome back. There's a favorite saying among journalists which goes, "The pen is mightier than the sword." But after being thrown into an impromptu European fencing lesson on Ganawage Mohawk territory near Montreal, our reporter Lindsay Richardson can tell you firsthand that saying just isn't true.
Patience, precision, power. Three qualities essential for the sport of longsword fencing, aka high-speed chess with weapons. It's the first time the sport has landed on Ganawage Mohawk territory. This fencing club may just be the world's first run out of a First Nations community. Except historically, the Ganyangahaga opted for other weapons.
That's our gun stock club. It's more of a brute force weapon. It evolved organically. The burl of the wood just has the natural curve, and we put antler in it. It's used for attack and defense.
This guy, wielding the German longsword and the weapon's know-how,
Pointy end goes in the bad guy.
is Yugonoro Macomber.
Like 1984-ish, maybe before. I love swords like my whole life. Well, I always liked them. There's pictures of me with my first cousin. We have swords, I think it was at Christmas. It's fun. There's that aspect of danger to it, but I know we have proper protective equipment. So there's no risk of serious injury. Well, there's always a risk of serious injury.
And it's seriously addictive. Yugonoro so enjoyed the lessons offered in a neighboring city, he decided to bring them back home to Ganawage. But to make it happen, he needed to bring in a secret weapon.
Ciao a tutti, sono Orlando, ho 33 anni e sono il capo istruttore di Ardimento.
Orlando De Cisio is ranked 4th in Canada.
Just twist your wrist. Whoa, there you go, awesome.
And is a lifelong proponent of historical European martial arts.
Italians are traditionalists. The same way you cannot tell them how to cook pasta or the way they can become obsessed, if you do the sauce wrong or if you overcook it. We're proud of everything. And then you reach puberty, in which every boy that is in their right mind wants to start dealing with these. So for us, the fencing tradition is very, very well felt.
Since it started in late summer, the group's amassed a faithful following. They get together twice a week here at the old lacrosse box to practice steps,
Hobarau, ox,
strikes, and to soak up the medieval charm.
I felt really invigorated right away. I just wanted to start trying out moves, the different types of thrusts that we had, and I felt very very good holding it. And then right away, Orlando showed me some cool moves, so I just felt confident in myself right away in the skills. So it's fun, it's great exercise, great upper body, lower body, everything from cardio as well. You'll understand martial arts, how to protect your head, get less flinchy from strikes to the face.
Try it out immediately, and you'll understand that there's a lot to learn more than just wielding the sword. It's also muscle technique and really good fun.
Lessons are open to everyone, even reporters.
Now,
first, a quick warm-up. Next, selecting your weapon. Then, the basics.
Just step and cut, and cut.
Or the slightly less basics.
Imagine like it's a baseball.
Points are counted based on strikes landed, so offense is important.
What you just did is called false edge cut.
But so is mastering defense.
Combat is full contact, so when these guys go at it, they go really, really strong.
More and more people are seeing the appeal. Even Canada's Crown Indigenous Relations Minister, Mark Miller, came out to Kahnawake to try.
That's an attack, Mark.
Summing up his experience in one word, wagajas, meaning I didn't win. Although inspired by real-life warfare, in this arena, it's all in good fun. For now.
We're going to take over when tournaments are going to begin. You're going to hear about Ardimento and the Mohawks very, very soon. I don't know if it's just coincidence or whatever, but I feel that I'm way more attached to the way these guys are than anybody else since I moved here.
The feeling is mutual.
I've always been interested in medieval, European, or maybe Japanese swords, and this is something that I've always collected in my lifetime, and, well, being able to use them functionally is, well, dream come true.
And while this is the first club of its kind, they feel it won't be the last.
Well, Mohawks lead the way. That's what we do. You know, what's scarier than a bunch of Mohawks protesting than a bunch of Mohawks protesting with swords?
And I'm not going to argue that.
Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Kahnawake, Mohawk territory.
Lindsay, remind me not to challenge you to a duel anytime soon. All right, we have to take one more break, but still ahead. When it comes to his own work, this artist doesn't play any favorites. We have a profile on this 74-year-old and his latest project, Red is Beautiful.
So if somebody asks me which one is my favorite, they're all my favorite.
Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. It is a winter wonderland in southern Manitoba on a November morning under the rising sun. Thanks to Gerald Richardson for today's photo of the day. You can send your pictures to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be featured as our next photo of the day. And now let's look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting in the east, -5 and snow in Charlottetown and -2 in Halifax. -3 degrees and snow in Nain and -7 in the Grand River. -10 and snowing in Quebec City and -10 and snowing in Val-d'Or. Sunshine and -7 in North Bay and +4 in Sarnia. -19 and a mix of sun and cloud in Big Trout Lake and sunshine and -11 in Timmins. -26 and snow in Churchill and -13 and a mix of sun and cloud in Norway House. -6 and a mix of sun and cloud in Winnipeg and -5 in Dauphin. -8 and snow in North Battleford and -4 and snowing in Regina. -29 and a mix of sun and cloud in Stony Rapids and -17 and snow in Buffalo Narrows. Over in the west, -22 and snow in High Level and -19 and snow in Peace River. -10 and snowing in Edmonton and -3 and snow in Calgary. -6 and snow in Quesnel and +5 in Vancouver. -14 and snowing in Dease Lake and +3 and sun in Prince Rupert. Minus 28 and sunshine in Old Crow, and minus 22 and a mix of sun and cloud in Whitehorse. Minus 35 and sun in Norman Wells, get your jackets out, and minus 28 and sun in Wrigley. Minus 29 and sun in Inuvik, and minus 27 in Colville Lake. In Baker Lake, minus 30 and a mix of sun and cloud, and minus 31 and sun in Chesterfield. Minus 22 and snow in Resolute, and minus 14 and snow in Iqaluit. An art exhibit called Red is Beautiful is on display at the Art Gallery of Ontario in Toronto. It features the lifelong work of an influential Anishinaabe Saulteaux artist. Here's Annette Francis.
It's quite a huge collection of work that spans 50 years of Robert Houle's artistic career. The 74-year-old celebrated the opening with media and finds it difficult to pick a preferred one.
I never realized how much I have produced. Big paintings, big ego, I guess, I don't know. Some of them, they're all my favorites. So if somebody asks me which one is my favorite, they're all my favorite.
The walkthrough exhibition was 2 years in the making. It features 90 pieces of his work from 1970 to 2021. The many themes of the display include history, residential school years, and sovereignty. It's a little overwhelming for Houle.
It's frightening, but it also makes you realize how old you are. But the most surprising thing about it is how many there are.
Curator Rhonda Nanabush says it's recognition Houle deserves. It encompasses his life's work.
I think that people will feel the beauty of his work, the emotion and passion and, greatness of the color. He does come from the idea that color is a spiritual thing, and you can really feel it in the show. So I want people to understand him as an artist and a colorist. But then also I think that we can finally grapple with the history of this country because it's here in all the work.
The exhibition runs until April 2022. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Toronto.
Beautiful work indeed. All right, that's all we have for you tonight on APTN National News. For news anytime, visit our website at aptnnews.ca. And we leave you tonight with more beautiful footage from our very own Tamara Pimentel from Banff, Alberta. I'm Daryl Stranger. Thank you for joining us. Have a great night.
Top of Silver Mountain, meaning a sacred summit within the traditional